So, free is always best, and these were free. And this is the first one I want to show, and I thought this was like I think it's like a PV-2800. It's like these weird, it comes in different colors that Panasonic made, like pink and white and other colors, maybe blue. And this is very similar, but this is an even more basic. This is just straight up a VCP. Now I've already taken it apart, so it's kind of ruining the magic, but I need to show this. So this has a bit of a design flaw. If you look at the bottom here, you'll notice there's no vents. That'll be important later. First, let me remove some screws. When there's an R-rated movie stuck inside, you know it's going to be good. So, can I do this one-handed? Yes. So, it's a little compact VCR. Oh, I forgot to show the year to give context. This is made in 1986. It looks pretty modern for what it is. I think the one I thought this was from around 87, so that would make a lot of sense. Yeah, I'll pop this open. So, first assessment, switch mode power supply, very small, and lots of stuff inside, little red discoloration. Very weird. So what I'm gonna do now is take this chassis out, and in order to do that I need to remove this cover, remove that screw, and actually remove this whole tape housing, because I believe the screws are kind of underneath all of this. There we go. These older Panasonics are neat. Just 4 screws and that comes right up. Anyway, let's look at the underside, because this is beautiful. So this is what I meant by a design flaw. There is nowhere, if any moisture builds up inside this little VTR or VCP or whatever you want to call it, nowhere for it to go. It just sits here. Now I don't know if it got water on it or if moisture just built up. But look. Also, sorry about the crickets. Look at that. And so you go like, okay, well, why is he showing this? Because I said screw it, and I tested this out, and it worked. What I did is it was acting funny, and I just absolutely doused this in contact cleaner. This is the mode switch. And then all it would do is rewind. Anything you do, it would rewind. And I realized I'm outside. So of course it's going to rewind. The end of tape sensor is flipping. So I put the VCR back together, and it worked. I'll insert a clip here. So yeah, I want to try that again, and if it does still work, I'm going to clean this up and see how clean I can make it. Maybe I'll take some of these metal parts and clean them up in vinegar. And I mean, these belts, other than the orange stuff on them from the rust, these are actually in really good shape. It's rather, oh, and the idler is a gear-based idler in 1986. So I mean, this is a pretty robust little machine if I can clean it up. Plugged in, put the cassette mechanism back on. It's power on. It's working. Now this is power eject, so when you power it off, it ejects the tape. it goes back in because gravity. So power on. Now if I remember right, because it's bright outside, if I hit play, see it just rewinds. If I hit fast forward, it rewinds. Or freaks out. Yeah, it freaked out there. Rewind. It rewinds. So let me put the cover on here and see if it still plays. Oh, there it goes. That blanking is just, it's bright out here. If you ever watched a video, someone uses CRT outside, you'll know what I mean. But look, it's working. Fast forward's working. Rewind. So I mean, all things considered, I think this is a candidate for just, you know, adjust some tracking. Let's see if the tracking knob does a thing. It's all the way to one side. It's all the way to the other. Yeah. Let's see, power. And so that should just spit the tape out. I'm gonna start taking this apart and cleaning everything up. I think this has a bit of potential. And yeah, I think the only functional issue I might run into is that mode switch, because those things can flake out with a little bit of dust or oxidization, and yeah, this thing is real bad. That's making progress. Got it all broken up into sections now. This is cleaning up nicely. This is the bottom that was pretty nasty. I mean, it's about as good as I think it needs to be. This is on the inside anyway, so alright, who cares? You're not gonna see it. And then over here I've got the power supply, tuner, everything kind of board, and the front panel controls. Remote sensor. This is all in fine shape. Like I just the normal amount of cleaning I think should do on this. I don't see any bulging, leaky looking caps, so that'll probably just stay as is. And then this. Oh yeah, and that's a little metal piece that went with the front panel. This I'm gonna have to slowly disassemble and treat all of this. I have to decide how I want to handle that. What I can do is some of these parts I can remove and clean independently, but then the actual chassis itself, like maybe I'll just get some Q-tips and kind of treat it with some vinegar or CLR or something. I mean, this bracket here that goes against the capstan, I mean, that's easy enough. I'm assuming it's easy enough to remove. Look at those screws. And that circuit board. Oh my god, it worked with that circuit board. Oh, and I just got a waft of this. Yeah, I haven't mentioned the smell yet because I'm outside, but this is incredibly musty. And okay, so it's incredibly musty. And this tape, as far as I can tell, has a lot of dust in it, but no mold. No mold. No mold. It's probably a rental, actually, that got stuck in there. So, yeah, I don't quite know how this, in a VCR that smells like the earth itself, it's so musty, covered in rust, but presumably there was just a little puddle of water on the bottom of this for, God, like a year? 2? I don't know. No mold. soaking parts. Everything's inside now. These metal parts have been scrubbed. Some of these needed some vinegar soaking after the scrub to fully get them cleaned. This one I didn't. Seems okay. There's a bit of rust still in the crevices, but whatever. Screws are all clean. This motor still looks nasty, but it's been cleaned up as much as it'll take. And yeah, the only thing I haven't touched yet is the mode switch. I have to decide how to attack this. And I may bring this outside and give it a dusting with all my protective gear just to get rid of any crap on here. Don't want that floating around. But yeah, it's coming along. I think next is this guy. I still can't believe how these motors are just fine. Next is this guy, and then a reassembly. Hopefully I remember where everything went. I used to work with a guy that smelled like this VCR smells. Really makes me question how he lived. Anyway, everything's back together. It may still look pretty bad, but it's a hell of a lot better than it was. So I've popped the mode switch out, and I'm just going to open it up to give it a proper cleaning. And so the way these work is you have clips. So you have a clip there, you have a clip on the back side, and a clip on this side, and then this top piece here should just lift off. Okay, it's open. This is the tracks. So you have 3 different tracks. The bottom, I'm assuming, is the supply. And then you have 2 mode statuses. So this acts kind of like 2 different bits to provide information to the logic controller or the VCR to tell it where all it is in all the loading position here. So it's kind of like a status feedback to the computer and the VCR. And this is the other side to it with the 3 wipers. Focus, there we go. So hard to do one-handed, but Q-tip, some contact cleaner, scrub these down. As you can see, they're nice and clean. Scrub the top of those. Plenty of videos online that do that. Check out 12 volt vids. He's done a lot of good stuff on cleaning mode switches. These are a common fault in these older VCRs, just as they are with age. If you ever used an old stereo and you have a crackly volume control, that's basically what this is. The great part with how dirty this VCR is I can easily see where the screw was mounting this, so I can get it exactly where it was before. Alright, I have it all back together and I'm just giving it another test. And I've noticed that when I first power it on, there's a bit of a squeal coming from the switch mode power supply, and it's dead. And then after about 5 seconds, the squeal goes away and it wakes up, but really won't do anything. If you put it under any load, it just shuts off. And after about 30 seconds, it works fine. So I suspect there's a problem in here, and it's probably capacitors. And I have to decide if I want to put any money into this, because this is more of just a fun romp to get it working again. Now that it's been sitting and it's on for a while, we got video and everything. You can go and fast forward. And when I hit power, it works just fine. And pop this in. Automatically plays. So mechanically, all the switches and sensors, I didn't even clean the tape transport, everything seems to be working fine. I think it's over here, and I'm really wishing I had a good in-circuit cap tester. I'll probably just end up pulling them all out. I mean, this is a small enough design. How easy is it to get this board out? Kind of looks like a pain. Ooh, a purple Panasonic cap. I've heard bad things about those. Anyway, this is a very interesting design. There's like no connections going to this power supply except power in, and then you have the shield which grounds to the circuit board here and here and here. And then these two little pins that are tied together that carry 9 volts. So I've had this powered off for a little bit. Let's watch what happens. So I'm monitoring the voltage here. Let's monitor what happens when I plug it in. Okay, so I'm going to power it back on. It just shut off. And now it's stayed on, but you can see the voltage is dropping. So now I'm going to try hit play. And it just shut off. So you can see it's loading the power supply down. So once the power supply has been on for a while, it doesn't seem to drop. That sort of 8-volt threshold around there seems to be the magic dropout number where it drops too low. So as it's been on for a while, now it's starting to sit more steady. It looks like it's probably around 10 volts that it's supposed to be. Maybe more. I don't know. But warming up like that, I mean, I hate saying it's caps all the time, but I'm going to test some caps. I bet it's caps. Much frustration later, the power supply is free. Desoldering this sucked. I had to use the solder sucker and a bit of solder wick. And then removing this was just a matter of heating these up and then sort of prying this shield outward. And it has exposed this little guy. So, I don't know, my first step I think will be to test these electrolytics. Just because that seems to be what goes wrong most of the time. And I will go from there. 33 at 200 tests well. 47 at 16 looks okay. V-loss is a little high. 4.7 at 200 is not happy. Like, I think that should be around 15 ohms, maybe 16 according to my little cheat sheet. So this goes in the bad list. Probably have a bunch of 4.7s kicking around somewhere. Don't have any 200 volt, but I got 350. And yeah, wow, that's a big difference. So that'll get changed. Both are 105 volt or 105 degree capacitors. And it's in this location right here, which is very warm. This is probably one of the warmer spots of this. So yeah, I can see why this would have failed. 330 at 16 is also kind of high here. I'll swap that one out. It's not in there because I had to kind of push these up against that. We're going used. Pulled this off a board. Should be good. 330 at 25 volts, 105 degree. Yeah, whatever. Alright, I got the power supply back in enough to do some testing. Monitoring the voltage. Now let's plug it in. Okay, cord likes to sit the opposite way. So it immediately just goes bzz, bzz, and it's good. 11 volts. So that's what the voltage is supposed to be. It's just around 11 volts. Oh, that's much better. That's a nice stable voltage. I don't have it plugged in, but trust me, it's working. So I'm going to start putting this back together. Oh. And do some cleaning around the transport. You guys have seen that a million times, blah, blah, blah. Yes, this looks bad. Yes, it is bad. All right, transport cleaned. It was actually a little dirty. Lubricated the tape guide paths, cleaned the heads, brake pads, tension band, all seem to be in pretty good order. That moves freely. Yeah, I think it's time to start putting this back together. Now, I can't find any information of this online, so obviously I don't know what the remote looks like, but it does have a remote sensor and will take Panasonic remote codes. Best I can guess, and I'm going to show an image on the screen, this rose-colored PV-2800R has the remote in the, it was like from an eBay listing ad. And the best I can figure is it's a variant of that remote that came with this, which would be really cool. Like a ivory white colored remote, very simple with just a few buttons on it. I would love to find that, but there's a slim to none chance I would ever run into something like that. I gotta say, I've really fallen for this little VCR. It's adorable. It's got a very cool design. It's cleaned up nicely. There's still some deep scratches, but I gave it sort of a polish with Novus number 3 and then number 2 to try and deal with the deep scratches. But it's cleaned up quite nicely. And yeah, let's pop a tape in. Adjust the tracking. What is this? All right, so let's grab the remote and check this out. There's no pause. This has no functional pause. The remote would have had the same controls you have on the front here. Except the only difference is power will turn it on and off. If you hit power to turn it off here, it also ejects the tape. This feels like a rental VCR. And check this out. Here's a tape with the record tab still in. It autoplays regardless of the record position. Yeah, because you're not going to be putting in the tape to record. Adjust the tracking.
Look into your eyes for somebody with nothing there.
This is the face Tina Cook saw on May 16th, 1986.
Does a nice job on the EP recordings. Pretty cool. Now, there's this button end. Let's see what this does. So put the tape in.
'16th, 1986. David Young.
Okay, so that's trying to rewind. And then repeat is on. So if I hit play, I'm assuming it's going to play to the end and repeat.
Okay. What about you?
What's neat about this machine is that it's both very serviceable. It was very easy to pop the mechanism out. It's Very easy to clean the mode switch. One screw, it pops out, easy to realign. And yet, taking this cover off, I haven't put the screws in, they're still sitting here. You have to sort of hook this front panel on and then sort of stretch it over. I had to re-glue this piece because it had popped off either by me trying to take this apart or just general wear and tear. So it wasn't really meant to be opened up. But it also seems to be a pretty robust, reliable little machine. I'm going to keep this. This is cool. Here we go. Here's kind of a setup you might have seen this kind of VCR in a kid's room or something. Just put a rental movie in and hit play. Or it hits play by itself. Or maybe you were out at the lake and you had your old TV out there. You just bought a little cheap VCR. So you could rent a movie and watch a movie when you're out there on the weekend.